Perfect. Hello, everyone. So good to see you. I was just reflecting on when my last offline talk happened. I honestly can't remember, but like really enjoying this 3D experience with you all today. So let's try if this works. Yes, perfect. Okay, so I am Lisa. I work as a user researcher at Prolific, and I'm here today to share some of my learnings from the discovery research piece that I've worked on throughout most of last year. That was looking into the complex environment of the ever-evolving, very fast-moving AI market. Adam has already done my intro on like what we do at Prolific, and that is quite a good intro in terms of researchers can find participants, participants can take part in interesting research. Why AI? So historically, our users on Prolific have been academics. We've had UX professionals like yourselves and myself, but the big crowd is academic researchers wanting to go beyond university students in their studies.
He just needs to get a turn the lights down to there.
Oh, okay, perfect. And our core audience became a bit more diverse in 2022. So we had a new type of researcher pop up on our platform that was behaving differently from the ones that we knew. They were running a lot of research very quickly. And when we looked at it a bit closer, we were like, actually not running research as we know it. They're not running surveys, they're not running interviews. They're using our participants to collect data to train AI models. So the question then became, is there an unmet need that we can fill? Is there space to grow into this market if we shift our offering a bit, given that we already have some people who are using us for this? This was a big question and screamed for discovery. Probably among the researchers of yours, this is one of the most exciting pieces of user research, right? The big unknowns. This was a more complex piece of discovery than I had done previously. It was a big new market, it was changing, and the opportunities for exploration were wide open. So today, I'm going to just move up this cursor. Shame. Okay. Well, today I'm going to talk to you about the complexities that I faced dealing with this market throughout different stages of my research process, specifically looking at scoping, recruiting, and communicating. So if we start with other direction, if we start with scoping, this is where you lay the land. You clarify what it is that you're trying to do, right? You clarify the questions, you understand what you're responsible for, what other people are responsible for. And for me personally, one thing that I found quite helpful to not get lost and orient myself a bit was to really hone in on my stakeholders' journey. Taking a moment, being like, where are my stakeholders at now? Where are they going next? And I find that for myself, honing in on what's next for you, and you in this case is whoever it is that I'm working with. So early on in the AI discovery, I might ask, okay, so we're ahead of this big piece of research. Imagine we're kind of done with it. What's next for you? What do you want to get out of this? And I might get a response like, deciding whether we should build a centered AI product. So the next question after what's next for you is like, what tells you when you're there? How do you know you're there? What would you need to see? And the response might be something like, A, there's a clear business opportunity, and B, it's a feasible problem. So those are great starting points for me to really understand, okay, what's the focus? What's the angle that I need to take in my research? And then I can think about, okay, to evidence a business opportunity, what might that involve? And we can dive a few levels. So for me, doing this is really an important reminder to make sure to not stop at this research will inform how we develop this feature, but really to ask, what would you need to see to go this way? And very importantly, what would you need to see to not go this way? To make sure that, yes, you're taking the focus and the perspective of your stakeholder into consideration, but you're not going to look out for the signals that they're looking for. You're just taking the angle without going for confirming any assumptions. Right. So the goal of this, doing that during discovery for me, is to clearly position yourself as a bit of a scout for your stakeholder. You understand what they're looking out for before you embark on your journey. And you do check in on this, not waterfall, like, okay, I got it all down and we'll see you when we see you. So we've laid the land, have a bit of a plan to get started. Let's run some research, right? So running research in this field really required recruitment. I did want to start out with some general desk research, trying to understand from industry reports what's going on with the market, who are key players. There was pretty much no literature reviews, no industry reports on the particular aspect of using humans for AI model training when we started. That was in 2022, before ChatGPT was even released. So everything started to change very quickly, but there was not much to start from. So what I did then was, okay, logical first step, talk to our existing AI researchers. So in theory, that should be easy, right? They're already on our platform. We know they're using us for this purpose. Yeah. So A, there weren't many of them, and they were extremely busy. So we only got to talk to a few of them. Once we got to speak to them, most of them were extremely secretive and didn't want to tell us much about why they were using our product and what they were trying to ultimately get to. So how about that? As you probably also know, talking to early adopters only is not enough when you're trying to scope a new market, right? You need to speak to mainstream consumers. That's because your early adopters are, yes, really tech savvy, very innovative, but they're also very happy to put up with a lot of little bugs, and they really see you as like the secret sauce that they have and some of their competitors don't. Which is great, but also was not helpful for me, because I was really hoping to talk to some mainstream users going through our existing users, basically being like, hey, you have a lot of colleagues, former friends, working in similar positions who might not be using us. Could you introduce us? This is usually a fail-safe recruitment strategy for me to quickly get to some really good people. Not so in this market. The people were so secretive, they did not want to tell other people that they were using us. They didn't want us to speak to people at other companies that were doing similar jobs. All right. So what did we do? We did try to address that by going through recruitment agencies and personal connections, and we had some success with both of that. But it was not really sustainable. The agencies became very expensive very quickly. The first round, they were happy to recruit for us. I think when we asked to speak to people again, they had put up the prices like 3 or 4 times because they struggled so much with recruiting relevant people for us. Personal connections are just limited. And when we tried to scale it in a more sustainable way, going through LinkedIn or social media, it just proved ineffective for our use case because our audience was so niche and so well-earning that incentivizing them was really difficult. So how did we make the most of the opportunities that we did have? 1, we varied the time offering that we put out there. We did not ask for the standard 60 minutes that we would have loved to have to really deep dive and understand the use cases, pains, concerns. We started with 15 minutes because we realized making someone talk to us once, even for 15 minutes, is better than them not talking to us at all. And often we found that people were actually happy to stay on longer, or if they felt like, okay, I'm actually being useful, and we're kind of value aligned around like building ethical AI training, they often were happy to talk to us again. We tried to replace cash by donations. Didn't really get us more people, it just meant that we got fewer people who were irrelevant coming up, so reduced the noise overall, which was helpful. And then finally, after having done a few rounds of recruitment and just getting increasingly frustrated, we decided to hire one of our interviewed experts as a part-time consultant. And that was helpful for the discovery, to answer some questions, but more importantly, it really helped us unlock our product teams in their iterative development. It's not uncontroversial because, yeah, an expert panel of one, as always, brings the risk of going too much on a single person's opinion, obviously. But you really need to take into consideration the environment that you're in. And if the audience is as small as the one that we had, going with one might be a good starting point. So we defined it as our interim gold standard, if you so want, to make sure that, yes, we know this is not ideal, but for now, this is better than any alternative that we have in mind. The risk of being stuck in recruitment loops just outweighed the risk of getting it wrong. So, my takeaway from recruiting in this environment was really redefining your gold standard based on the environment you're in, making do with what you can, and advancing, basically not getting stuck, being pragmatic within the framework that you're operating in. And the last area that was affected by complexities that I had to navigate was research communication. So research communication for me is kind of the swapping between being a scout, as I mentioned earlier, and being a tour guide. So as a scout, you regularly go back and you report on what you're seeing, right? But ever so often, you need to take a step back. You need to look at the bigger picture. You need to align with your stakeholders on what it is that you're seeing. If you're a good tour guide, you're not just providing your audience with a lonely planet and you're like, here, everything you need to know about this amazing new place, good luck. What you do if you're a good tour guide, you curate an experience. You take people by the hand and you show them what they need to see, what is most relevant for them to get them to where they need to be. Probably needless to say that my first attempt at being a tour guide didn't go too well. So what I did what didn't work well is I dove in too deeply, leading to information overload. I was very excited about all the things that we found, and I wanted to share it. I also tried to provide outputs that resonated with everyone in the organization. And that in general also is not good tour guide behavior, right? You can book your cultural tour and you can book your ecological tour, so that not everyone has to go to both the Scorpion Sanctuary and the local history museum, right? So what did I do then when I realized that wasn't really landing and not really working? To address information overload, I combined new information with known concepts. I'll say a bit more about that in a moment. And I over-communicated. You probably hear over-communicate as an advice all the time. I will tell you what I made of over-communicating, what it meant. So let's get concrete. Combining new information with known concepts. Oh, I'm feeling nostalgic. This is a simplified version of an output that I created to show to my stakeholders different use cases that I've seen across the AI market, and for each of them to provide further detail on their requirements and some concrete examples. When I first presented this, I presented it without the coloring in green, yellow, and red, which, by the way, is arbitrary. I'm just taking this as an example. And people were really interested. I got a lot of oohs and aha moments, but that was it. nothing happened. So I had to go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, people find it interesting, but they don't really know what to do with it. And then the idea came to me to bring it home by combining it with a known concept. Product market fit is something that we use quite colloquially across the organization. People can relate to the concept. And so I arranged the table into different sections and basically said, this is a use case that we're serving quite well, good product market fit. This is kind of okay, but would require some tweaks if we wanted it to properly work. And this would probably need a complete new build of something, because we're not well positioned for this at the moment. And that was really an unlock for people to be like, oh, connect new information to known concepts. What is relevant in this for me? So marketing focused on good PMF. Okay, so this is something that we're serving well already. Let's shout about it. Product could focus on the little bits that might need some tweaking and think about, ideate on some little experiments to test if we could really unlock better fit with some small changes. And the area of would need a big rebuild was something to take up with senior leadership and understand if it was something that would be worthwhile for us to do. So, my first takeaway from communicating was combining new information with familiar concepts really helps people take things in. And the other point for me was really, and that's my definition of over-communicating, closing the loop on what's next for you. What does that mean for me? It means communicating in formats that are useful to my stakeholders, that look at things from the angle that they most care about. Concretely, that meant providing different formats of output or workshops to different stakeholders. Just to give some examples of what I've done in this context, we ran a SWOT analysis workshop with our executive team to collectively reflect on strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats brought together from different functions in the organization to help on the decision of whether we should build a separate standalone TI product. We created, in collaboration with marketing and sales, an ideal customer profile and broke down the existing AI persona into more bespoke sub-personas of end user and decision maker. And that allowed those teams to know who to target and how to talk to them, what to talk to them about. And to bring everyone in the company on the same wavelength, if you so want, after having done this big discovery, having gone out into the land, to create a shared terminology and to avoid rediscovery across different teams, we ran a big AI learning event for the whole tech collective and product. And that involved sharing out key findings, targeted to the audience, only focusing on what they needed to know to be unblocked. Gave them some time to ideate based on what they have learned, and really just take in some interesting new findings and just be, I don't know what the adjective is, but really feel that we were working at the edge of what was currently evolving in the AI space, and our knowledge was evolving along with the industry. So quite a lot of excitement. Based on that, we also created some learning modules that are now part of onboarding for everyone who comes in new. So again, just some alignment and making sure that across the company we know who we're serving in terms of our users. So to over-communicate for me means to close the loop. This is just an example of what that might look like in terms of different communication formats for different stakeholders. Might look very different for you in your organization, but this is just an idea of what you can think about and might try, because different things land differently with different people at different times. And that's what over-communicating means to me. So, bringing it all together, recap. During scoping, try to hone in on what's next for your stakeholders. During recruitment and running your research, be gentle with yourself, be aware of the environment you're operating in, and redefine your gold standard, at least temporarily, based on that. And in terms of communication, try to combine new information with familiar outputs, and then close the loop back to what's next for your stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you. Yeah, put your hands together for Lisa for a wonderful presentation. And we do have about 3 minutes, so we've got space for maybe 1 or 2 questions. Does anyone have any? Do you want to put your hands up if you do? Come be brave. Someone out there's got a question. Yeah, go on.
I have a question for you guys. Sure.
Okay.
Go to the next slide. Hey. Yes. Also, if you do want to become a participant, to take part in any kind of research studies or any kind of AI training that might be going on our platform and get paid for it, do please scan and we'll fast track you into our participant pool.
Thank you.